All right, I am down in the man cave, and like I said before, I am now going to go through my thought process and the way I crunch numbers when it comes to seeing if a rental property is worth an investment or not. Once again, every province, every state, and different parts of the world are all different. There's different tax laws. There's just different markets. There's different places that you would expect more of a return or less of a return. So please go and get an accountant if you are planning to buy rental properties. Always get an expert's opinion and sort of learn the tricks of the trade from the professionals. Of course, you can watch people on YouTube and kind of get different perspectives, but once again, you always want to see what the laws are around where you live. But without further ado, I'm going to go through how I get to if a rental property is worth it or not. What I did yesterday is I actually went through all this stuff, so I'm going to try and explain all of it without screwing up. This is really my first time sort of teaching my thought process, so bear with me, but I'm going to try and do a good job for you. So, I am looking at buying a triplex. I did put in an offer, and it ended up getting accepted at $630,000. Now, I originally put in an offer for $620,000. They ended up countering at $680,000. They originally were asking $700,000, then went down to $680,000. Then they made the offer at $660,000. I rejected the offer at $660,000. Another negotiation happened, and I ended up capping at $630,000 simply because when the property got appraised back in 2016 before it was constructed, it was pre-appraised at $630,000. So I knew if I at least went at $630,000, the market since 2016 has gone up a little bit here, but it stayed relatively stagnant. So I knew if the new appraisal came in even at $630,000, I would still be in good shape. Okay, so this entire process here is based on a purchase price of $630,000. All right, so here is my cost. So my mortgage payments is going to be $2,562 a month. That includes the principal and the interest. Okay, so that is the loan that I will be getting from the bank. It's a little over $500,000. And it's in a 25-year amortization, but it's on a 5-year mortgage term. Now, in the United States, you guys have like 30-year fixed mortgages, which is just amazing. And then you guys have things like a 1031 exchange where you can defer profits into other things. So I don't want to get into that because this is for Canada, but just know that it is normal to go on a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5-year term. And then after that term, you go and get another mortgage. So you basically renegotiate a new percentage. And I do believe my rate is at 3.7%, okay, for a 5-year term. So once again, this is principal and interest. All right. Now we're going to go into the yearly costs, okay? All right. So for this triplex, all right, once again, I'm going to put up here, this is for the triplex, exclamation. So here are the yearly costs. So it's about $2,000 a year for garbage and snow removal. Taxes, $4,800 a year. Water bill is $700 for the year. Electricity is $500 for the year. Heating is $500 for the year. Insurance, $600 for the year. And I put a small maintenance fee of $600. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each one of these things with you guys to really hammer in sort of my thought process and how I get to the certain numbers, okay? So it's one thing for me to just show you numbers, but I want to explain each thing to you, okay? So strap yourselves in. So snow and garbage removal, they sent me some receipts of what they have done over the past while, and I actually believe that I'm going to be able to get this even cheaper than $2,000. Oh, sorry, I have my Streamlabs up and running for some reason. I believe that I'm going to be able to get it cheaper, but when it comes to these numbers, I always go with the higher end of things. These are very, very conservative. I believe that I'm going to be able to get it cheaper, but in case I don't, it's going to be $2,000 a year. The reason why I have to pay for snow removal and garbage removal is because it is a big property. There's a literal parking lot. The driveway is huge, and you can't ask your tenants. Well, I suppose you could, but you're not going to expect your tenants to shovel a massive driveway. So you need to get a plow to come in here. Our Canadian winters can be pretty bad. And then also, since there's 3 units, they put their garbage in these big garbage bin containers, and then a company comes and takes that away. So I'm going to look into this a little bit more when I get the property and see how I can axe that price down some. Taxes is property tax. You can never get away with this. Even when you pay off your properties in full, taxes are always going to be a thing. Depending on where your property is located and how big of a lot it is, you're always going to pay taxes on your land. So for this property in particular, it's $4,800 a year. Water bill is just in this triplex. It's all hooked up under one water main, so I am forced to pay the water bill. So water gets included with the rent for my tenants, and obviously you make your rent according to that. So as water goes up and electrical goes up and things like that, you up the rent, right, over time. Right now it's $1,300 a month per unit. Maybe next year it'll be $1,350 and then $1,400, so on and so forth. So it's nothing major. $700 water bill is nothing crazy, and that kind of gets added into the rent. Now, there is a electric and a heating bill. It's only $500 for the year. Now, tenants are responsible for their own electric and heating. There's a heat pump in each unit, but there is a lobby area in this triplex. So as you walk into the main doors, there is a lobby area. There's 3 levels, and this needs to be heated, and also it needs to have lights. There's lights and stuff. So for the whole year, it's $500 to heat and to light it up, right? So that counts for the lighting on the outside of the property and on the inside of the foyer. Insurance, I've shopped for insurance all day, one day, and I got an amazing rate. Only $600 for the year with some really great coverage. And I got it so cheap because I have so many properties and vehicles that when you lump it all together, and there's a bunch of cutbacks that you can get. So if you have good credit, they seem to give you a better rate on your home. Don't ask why. Typically, they coincide good credit with people that take care of properties a little bit more, so you get a better rate. And also, my wife got a college credit, and her work that she got the credit through has a deal with this branch, and thus we get a little bit of a lower rate as well. So that was amazing. $600 per year, can't beat that. And then I have a little $600 maintenance fee. Now, I actually don't have property management, right? So typically on a rental property, you may not have time to manage all of your properties. For me, I'm my own boss. I work from home, and I like to get my hands dirty and go and deal with people. I'm a people person, and it's nothing for me to go out and deal with an issue when it happens. I'm also very fortunate because my father is a contractor, and he does everything basically for free for me. We've got a little bit of a partnership going, not in terms of a business sense, but he's my dad. We love to spend time with each other. He shows me the tricks of the trade. You know, if there's a floor that needs to be repaired, we go and we do it together. Obviously, my company will pay for the materials, but Dad and I just put some sweat equity in there, and I learn from him. And then also when my father retires in another 10 years, then I'll put him on payroll, and hopefully by that time I will have dozens of properties, and then we'll work something out when the time comes. So I'm very, very grateful. My dad helps out a lot, and that's awesome. The reason why my maintenance is also very low here is because this is a brand new triplex. Literally was just built in 2018. It's brand spanking new with a 5-year manufacturer's warranty. So if there's any major deficiencies in the house, if windows need to be repaired or they weren't installed correctly, I'm getting a full inspection tomorrow, by the way. But if there's a problem with the roof, if anything that costs a substantial amount of money goes, they will fix it for free over the next 5 years. Also, all the appliances are brand new. Everything is high end. It's very well built. And my dad actually framed, drywall, painted, taped all of the property as well. So coincidentally enough, I know that it's built very, very strongly. So I just put a small maintenance fee of $600. It could be a little bit more, but it could be a lot less too. It could be literally nothing. 2 of my other properties, I have spent a whopping, in the last, 3 years of renting them out, I spent a whopping maybe $500 in issues, right? So, and those are on properties that are older. So, it's kind of a conservative thing, but for this situation, $600 seems about right. So when you add all of that stuff up there, the snow removal, taxes, all that fun stuff, we're looking at a total yearly expense of $9,700, okay? Now we move into, if we divide that by 12, because there are 12 months in the year, so 9,700 divided by 12, that is $808 per month on average in expenses. And once again, we're kind of on the higher end of things, right? I rounded everything up. Electricity bill is actually about $470. Heat is the same thing, about $470. Insurance is actually like $580. Water, I know, give or take, could be a little bit more, could be a little bit less, depending on usage of the tenants. But overall, about $808 a month in monthly expenses, not including my mortgage payments, okay? So when we do include my mortgage payments, we're looking at a total monthly expense to have the triplex running. That is interest, principal, all the maintenance, everything. It is $3,370 a month to operate this triplex, all right? So if we look at what the rent is, there's 3 units. They're all identical, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Each unit is getting $1,300 a month. There's 3 units. Whoops. We times that by 3. So that's $3,900 a month that I'm going to be receiving from my tenants, which means if you subtract the $3,900 from the $3,370, my total expenses, I will see a monthly profit of $530 a month, all right? And that is what we call cash flow, okay? So each and every month after all expenses, I'm going to be cash flowing $530 a month, okay? Which means if we take $530 a month and we times that by 12, because there's 12 months in the year, that is $6,360 a year in passive income that I'm going to be making on this triplex, assuming that I do get it and everything does go through. So, to kind of put this into perspective, I have a few other rental properties. A couple of them are getting $250 a month, $300 a month in passive income. And this property is actually significantly more expensive than my typical properties that I buy. My last rental property that I purchased it for $225,000. This purchase price here is $630,000. So that means I got to put a lot more money up front, which I'll talk to you guys about in a minute. So depending on where you're at in the world, $530 in passive income can be a lot of money, or it could be not so much money. But that is just one piece of the pie, okay? So that's just one revenue stream. There's about 4 revenue streams that you get from owning a rental property. But once again, that is cash flow, all right? That is money in my bank account or in my company's bank account after all expenses, okay? And that's thinking worst case scenario and pretty much all of these. I'm pretty sure I could get this up to about 600, but I won't really know for sure until I have the property itself. So let's get into the numbers here. Let's start crunching some more numbers. So my down payment on this property is $126,000. That is a 20% down. So that is 20% of a $630,000 purchase price is $126,000. All right. So now we're just going through some opening costs to see how much I'm in for. The appraisal, $0. A tip to anybody out there that's looking to buy rental properties, especially if it's not your first property. So say you already own a home and you're going to the same bank to get a second mortgage for another property, you can go ahead and ask them to cover the appraisal charges, because a bank is always going to want you to get an appraisal if you're getting a loan, right? If you're paying cash for a deal, then you don't need one. You can do that privately. But if a bank is going to be loaning you money, they're going to want to make sure that you're not overpaying it, just in case you default on your mortgage payments, and then they have to go and foreclose your home and then sell it, and they want to make money, right? Or at least break even. So first tip of the day is to always ask your bank if they're willing to cover the appraisal charges, which can be about $300 depending on where you live. All right. So an inspection is going to cost $500. Typically, it's about $300, but with a triplex, there's more units. It's just going to be a little bit more expensive. So I put in a budget there of $500. Could be a little bit less, but I'm going to find out that tomorrow. But on the high end, it will be $500. So for lawyer fees and title insurance is going to be $2,000. I have a great property lawyer that I go to for all of my properties. He treats me well. He does very good due diligence. So for him, it's going to be with the title insurance. Title insurance, I do believe, is about $400. And my lawyer fees are about $1,600, okay? On my last deal, it was a lot less. I only paid $800 in fees, but this is a little bit bigger of a deal, and there's more due diligence within this one than it was the last because of easement issues and things like that. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we have to go over for this property in particular, but it's about $2,000. Also, within the closing costs, there's a little thing called deed transfer tax. That is 1.5% of the purchase price of the home. So 1.5% of $630,000 is $9,450. That is for this province. I don't know what it is for other provinces or other states, but it is 1.5%. And once again, this is why it's important that you speak to your personal accountant and make sure that you have an accountant that specializes or at least knows a lot about real estate. So when you add up all of those numbers, these are all of my closing costs. Price were $137,950 estimated in. So that's cash that I need to put up to get this property. So once again, guys, this means down payment, inspection, appraisal, lawyer fees, deed transfer tax, you name it, we're all in at $137,950. I know it's a lot of money. This is definitely the biggest purchase I have ever made in my life. It's more expensive than my home, my personal residence, but it's a great opportunity, and I'm going to keep showing you guys the number to show you why this deal makes sense. Okay, so once again, we've already established that my yearly cash flow is $6,360, right? We've already established that up here once we subtracted, the monthly expenses from the rent. So once again, $6,360. Money in. So this is how much it costs to get the deal done. Once again, the $137,950. Now, this is what I like to call my cash-on-cash ROI, all right? So my cash-on-cash return on investment. My investment money that I'm putting in is $137,950. My cash-on-cash ROI is 4.61%. Okay, now I know what a lot of you guys might be thinking right now. Well, Jeff, 4.61% is not a lot of money. Like, it's not a great return on your investment. And I agree. You can go to the stock market. You can get mutual funds that can get you anywhere from 4 to, on a high end, 12%. If anybody's promising you anything more than that, I have never seen it. But I would say on average from my mutual funds or any other stocks or investments, typically, honestly, it's about 7 to 9% is what I see. I'm sure depending on your risk tolerance, it can be a little bit more, it can be a little bit less. You might have some years where you're up 20% and then one year where you're down 15% and then you're up 7% and then you're down 2% or whatever the case may be. But over the stretch of time, you kind of want to see anywhere from 6 sort of on a low end all the way up to 12%. That would be great. Right around the 8 to 10 is pretty good. So 4.61% is not great, but remember, that is only on my cash on cash return on investment, which means the cash I put in, right? $137,000. We're going to divide that by the $6,360 a year is only 4.61%. It's really not all that much. So 137,950, divide that by 6360. Whoops, sorry. 6360, divide that by 137950, times that by 100 to get your percentage, and that is 4.61%. All right. Now, if that was just the deal and that was how much money I'd be making, I would run from this deal. I would just run long away from it. It's not enough return on investment for the amount of money that I'm putting up. So this is where it gets good. So if it was just this, right? So just say worst case scenario, it would take me roughly 21 years to get my money back. If this was all I was making, to get roughly $137,950 back, it would take about 21 years at this return on investment, okay? So that's not great, but it's a start. Now, there are times where you can buy properties where your cash on cash ROI is much higher. Typically, you see that when you're buying a home and you're repairing it, or you're putting some rehab into it and then you're reselling it, or you buy something dirt cheap. Maybe it's a foreclosure. You get a steal of a deal on something. You put $10,000, $20,000 into it, and then you can rent it for even higher than what it was. And maybe your ROI can be 7, 10, maybe even 14%. That is awesome. But since this property is brand new, there's nothing really that I can do to it to really up that value. Obviously, I can raise the rent as time goes on, but for the most part, what really gets me hard about this deal is it's brand new and it's got a 5-year manufacturer's warranty on the entire place. And I'll be honest, guys, this triplex is immaculate. It is very, very well built. So I can take a lower ROI for the upside of some other stuff. I don't have to put any hard sweat. Actually, I don't have to put any sweat equity into this place. It's just sort of turnkey, ready to go with some nice insurance for me as well. But let's get into some more stuff, okay? So once again, the yearly cash flow, $6,360, okay? Now this is where things get good. All right, so the principal equity is $1,050 per month, okay? So we look back up here at my monthly payments, right? This is my mortgage payments. This is both equity, like my principal, and my interest. The interest is what the bank gets for loaning you your money. It's on a 25-year amortization for my loan, which means the longer that you're paying, the lower that those monthly payments are, and which means more money gets put onto your mortgage. So over time, each month, you're actually adding more and more money onto your principal to build equity in the home and not paying as much in interest. So starting right out from the gate, first month, I'm going to be getting every single month when they pay me rent and I'm paying down this mortgage, I'm making $1,050 a month. The rest of that is going to interest. So the bank is really making their money, but I am making $1,050 per month starting out, and that equals, we times that by 12 for the year, because there's 12 months in a year. That's an extra $12,600 that I'm making on top of the $6,360, okay? So this is what we call, equity. This is building equity. This is how you really build wealth in real estate, all right? And I'm going to keep going here a little bit more. Now, there's also a thing called appreciation, which means typically when you hold a home, normally the housing goes up in value. Now, there's been a couple of times in the history of the housing market where things have tanked. We all know about the big crash, the American crash and all that stuff. But for the most part, if you're holding onto a property for a long term, chances are the property is going to be going up in value. Now, of course, this is not a guaranteed thing, and I never buy property playing the appreciation game. That's called gambling. Even though it's almost set in stone that if you hold property, of course, depending on where you live, and that's why you do your due diligence in the neighborhood that you're buying, the area you're buying, to make sure that typically properties are going up in value. So with that being said, on average, over the span of, we'll say, 20 years, 10 years, whatever, typically it's about 1% a year that your property goes up in value. So with a purchase price of $630,000 and the appraisal, I shouldn't say the purchase price, but the appraised value of the home is $630,000. 1% of that is $6,300. So when you think about it, every year that you're holding the property, now remember, some years it may go down 2%, some years it might go up 3%, some years it might stay stagnant and level. So, 1 year it might go up 2%, but generally over the period of time, especially where I live, once again, it's about 1% a year. And I've also looked at all my other properties, and that's been pretty much the case since I started buying rental properties. Because remember, just the economy, just the way things change, the cost of living goes up, and that's just how she goes. So when we add up all of these, okay, so we got our yearly cash flow at $6,360. We've got our equity that we're building up at $12,600 per year. And then we've got appreciation. If we're just going to throw that in there because you want to, calculate that as well. That is $25,260 a year that I make on the property. That is assuming an average of 1% on appreciation, which now means my yearly profit is 19.03%. So now it starts to look a lot better than the measly 4.61% before. Because remember, that's just cash on cash. That's my cash in and then what I'm seeing each month after all expenses. But now there's a lot of money being played here behind the scenes that I don't have, that I'm not being able to grab right away. Right? I'll be able to pull that money out at the end of my 5-year mortgage term, or I can break it and pay a fee, but you don't want to do that usually. But after 5 years, when I go and get a new mortgage, I can start siphoning out all that equity if I want. So each year, we have $25,000. Well, actually, some of that is cash flow, but if you're keeping that in the business, but I can siphon out all that money, right? I can siphon out about $20,000 a year. So after 5 years, I'm going to have about $100,000 in equity in the home just from people paying down my mortgage every single month, getting that cash flow every single month. And then I can take out that $100,000 in 5 years and go and put a down payment on another triplex or a duplex or a single family home or whatever. So let's go ahead and crunch the numbers even further. So for those that are saying, well, Jeff, appreciation, we don't know how that's going to work. Can we get some other numbers? Sure, I can do that too. So this is without appreciation, all right? So assuming that the property does not go up in value, it doesn't go down in value from the duration of me owning this property. So say I own it for 10, 15, 20 years, and it never goes up in value, which is unheard of. But just for the sake of saying it, say it doesn't. So instead of making this extra $6,300 a year, we're now only adding up my yearly cash flow and the principal pay down, the equity each year, which equals $18,960. If you divide that into what I put in, the $137,905, that still gives me a 13.7% return on investment. That is not including appreciation. So now we're starting to look really, really healthy, right? So worst case scenario, the property doesn't move. It's unheard of, but say it doesn't. I'm still making more money than what you would typically make in a stock market or wherever else you would, stick your money at the bank and have them, try and make it work for you, okay? Now, here's another good thing that we're not taking into consideration as of yet is, let me just go down here. each year, okay, so we're making $1,200 more a year, okay, mainly because, remember, each month that people are paying down your mortgage for you when you're collecting that rent and paying your mortgage payments, your interest and your principal, each year, or every month I should say, less and less interest is owed and more go onto your principal. So I already looked at, I have a sheet right there beside me. Every single year, so after the first year, I'm actually going to be knocking down an extra $1,200 a month, because that's going to be $1,200 less in interest payments. The longer that you're paying this down, the more and more that goes down. So each and every year that I'm holding on to this, I'm actually adding another $1,200 in profit as well. So with all that being said, I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste all this at once. Hopefully this is all making sense for you guys. All right. So this is the next portion here. So after 5 years, I'm going to have my money back. Okay. So after 5 years, remember, I'm in it for $137,950. That's what I'm putting down to get it. Down payment, closing costs, all that fun stuff. So after my 5-year term, okay, so the $1,200 I'm making extra a year, that's an extra $6,000 over 5 years, right? 1,200 times 5, because I have it on a 5-year term. That's $6,000, okay? Then we have the $25,260, which is, once again, we're adding it in with appreciation. That's that number there, okay? We times that by 5, because that's how much money we're pulling in every year between cash flow, appreciation, and equity that's being chunked down, right? So that's $126,000 and some change over 5 years. All right, so we equal that. That's $132,300, right? So approximate total money earned, I can't spell apparently, back after 5 years is $132,300. All right, we divide that by 5 because there's 5 years. That is $26,460 a year I am making on this property, assuming the 1% a year on appreciation, okay? So we do that, the $26,460, divide it by what money I put into it, remember, $137,950. We times that by 100, to get the percentage. That is 19.18% a year return on investment. Okay, so that's pretty awesome. Now, just to give you guys the other way around, this is the same formula without appreciation, okay? Because you never want to assume that your property is going to go up in value. We cannot predict the market, but once again, I always like to think worst case scenario. So worst case scenario, the property does not go up in value. It stays at $630,000 in value in perpetuity, right? For God only knows what reason. So we're still going to do the extra $1,200 a year because as my tenants are chunking down my mortgage, more and more money that they're paying me each month is being added into the equity of the home. That doesn't change. And now we're looking at $18,960 a year in profit because we're not adding in the appreciation. We're not adding in that $6,300, right? We're taking that number and we're bringing it down there. So that's at $94,000. So now approximately money earned back after 5 years, all right, is $100,800. Divide that by 5 because of 5-year term. We're making $20,160 per year after 5 years, right? And that means we divide that by how much money we put in. Once again, that number doesn't change. $137,950 times that by 100. 14.61% ROI, which is still better than mutual funds, stock market, all that fun stuff that you'd put your money into a bank. So this is worst case scenario. I am making 14.61%. And remember, all of these numbers go up exponentially over time. And after 5 years, when I go and do a remortgage, I can siphon out that money that I put in and have it all back, and now I have a triplex free and clear. Now, obviously, I'd still owe the full amount of mortgage on it, but now I don't have any money into it. I've already taken all that money out. Now I'm buying another place, and now that triplex is generating. We're starting the process all over again. Because if I were to pull that money out, and assuming it didn't go up in value, right, which once again rarely ever happens, it normally does, then we're starting back at square one again, right? Because I've pulled out all that extra equity, and now we've got another mortgage of about $2,600, and we do the whole thing again for another 5 years, and then we pull out another $132,000 or whatever the case may be. So that's it. So now that I've gone through all the numbers with you guys, what do you guys think in the comment section below? Do you guys think this is a good return on investment? What do you guys think about my thought process when I break down the numbers? And I always like to be realistic. I always like to think worst case scenario, and I never assume, right? So all of these numbers are very conservative and worst case. I could actually make $140,000 after 5 years. So who knows? Now, this is a lot of money to put up, and I understand that not everybody has $140,000 to drop on a triplex. Obviously, you can buy triplexes that are $300,000. Depending on where you live, you might be able to buy one for $150,000. Who knows? Put a bit of work into it. You can see much greater gains sometimes with some sweat equity, but this is just turnkey ready with that warranty. It's a beautiful place. It's really going to attract high-end tenants, because when you have a nice place in a nice neighborhood, you tend to attract those type of people that want to take care and take pride in where they live, opposed to somewhere that's run down or in a rough neighborhood. And listen, there's money to be made in that area of real estate as well, but I like to have something that I would like to, that I could see myself living in, and that's just how I operate. So there it is. Now, obviously, $140,000 once again is a lot of money. This didn't happen overnight, right? And this isn't sure it's technically my money, but this is money that my company has, right? This is from doing my line of work for many years and building up a nice balance for my company, and also doing real estate as well and making money on the deals and all that fun stuff. And remember, guys, this is at a $630,000 pre-appraisal, okay? If the appraisal comes back at $635,000, then I made $5,000 on the deal. If it comes back at $640,000, then I made $10,000 on the deal, which means the amount of money I have in is going to go even less and less and less, which makes the ROI even better and better and better, right? Because you can siphon out that money. So there it is. Like I said, it's only a 4.61% cash on cash, but listen, I know a lot of people out there are just worried about cash flow. Like how much, in order to live off real estate on a monthly basis, you have to own a lot of properties, because normally when you cash flow, you're not cash flowing thousands of dollars a month unless you own huge complexes like apartment buildings and condominiums and things like that. Typically, now I'm not saying that it can't be done, but if you're buying single family homes and stuff, there's only so much profit there unless you're buying things in cash. If you're buying a house in cash, then yeah, you could cash flow a lot of stuff, but you also typically have a lot more money in there and you don't have mortgage payments to pay. And as these mortgage payments go down, the cash flow goes up. So each and every year, the $530 a month on the low end that I'm making is actually going to go up. So after the first year, it might be now $600. Then it might be $650, and so on and so forth. And that's assuming I don't put up the price of rent. Obviously, interest rates for your loans are going up. The cost of living are going up. And as a landlord, you have to know when to hike up prices and how to do it so that you're not pissing off your tenants, or you're not overpricing what the market is dictating what people should be paying for a 2-bedroom apartment or a house or whatever the case may be. So there it is, guys. I know it is quite the explanation. I have gone on now for damn near 40 minutes, but I really wanted to give a detailed look at this. I've also done this for my other properties as well, which I'll show you guys in a separate video so you can see how much ROI I'm getting on my other properties. And it is very similar to this. The profit margins are very, very similar. So let me know what you guys think. Once again, yeah, I'm not really going to add anything else to it. I think I went through everything. If you have any other questions, leave them in the comment section below. And I can't stress enough, guys. And once again, this is all before claiming depreciation, tax write-offs, the benefits of being a property owner, all of those things that you can write off to basically pay next to no tax if your accountant's doing it correctly for all of this. Now, obviously, when you claim depreciation, you got to pay that back when you go to sell. You know, they got to do a reclaim, and I can talk about all that stuff down the road. But if you've got a good accountant, and I can't stress that enough, to take advantage of all of the tax cuts, because the way that these laws are written, they're written to help out investors, to help the economy, to help all that stuff, and you really need to take advantage of it so that these numbers make sense even more than what they do even on this paper. Because when it's all said and done, after claiming depreciation, taxes, and everything, it might even be even better off than what you're seeing here on the screen. So thank you so much, guys. Hit that like button if you found this video helpful, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next one. I'll give you all an update. Tomorrow I'm going to do the inspection, and I'll keep you all posted on this whole process all the way until I close and I get the keys. And if this is something you guys are interested in, I can talk more and more about real estate along with the car stuff and things that we do here on this channel, because this is what I'm passionate about, and this is what I do on the side to make passive income and hopefully become financially free and wealthy 15, 20 years down the road, where I just will never have to work ever again because I've acquired so much property and I have so much passive income and my money's working for me. And yeah, that's the show. Thank you so much, guys. Take care. Peace out.